and I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder. One of the four beasts saying, "Come and see." And I saw.
Passengers watched in shock as a full-on brawl broke out on a Frontier Airlines flight at Miami.
You're assaulting me, man. Oh, I'm assaulting you. Yeah, I've been here for years. I'm assaulting you.
It's life back in the sky.
If we don't stand up, it's only going to get worse.
Unruly passengers. Bizarre incidents. All taking place inside planes.
We are seeing unruly passenger events at a rate of 60 times the normal number of events in a year.
Major cities across this country are experiencing a rise in violent crime, with shootings in New York City up over 42% in the first half of this year compared to 2020.
That's right, Corey. The victim's family telling me tonight that this was a senseless act of violence. Again, as you mentioned, this was all over a yard debris dispute.
Senseless. 4 shots to the chest. Why? We were good people.
Now the search is on for 3 suspects wanted in a teenager's murder. Good evening and welcome. I'm Mark Wilson.
And I'm Kelly Ring. And the sheriff says the George Jenkins High School student was set up and killed
in the stabbing of a 14-year-old female by this strip mall in Fargo this morning.
A 21-year-old was shot and killed in Brooklyn, and now police have a clear video of the shooter's face. This was in the middle of the day, 2:30 Wednesday afternoon, near Clarkson.
Opening fire on unsuspecting joggers in Buckhead is expected in court for the first time. Police say Galen Newsom went on a rampage Saturday that also included running over a man with a sedan.
A man arrested for crimes connected to a 4-year-old boy's disappearance could soon be charged with that boy's murder.
18-year-old Darian Brown is charged with breaking into the home where the child was sleeping.
Cut her off.
As I was merging away from the carpool lane, I heard a loud noise, and I heard my son say, "Ow," and he had been shot.
We just learned from Chicago police that one of the victims, a 14-year-old boy who was shot in the head, has died after he was taken to Sturger Hospital. That 14-year-old was one of at least 2 teenagers shot tonight. And this comes less than a week from another mass shooting in Austin where 4 young girls were shot and injured.
Back here at home, it was another violent weekend in this country. 55 shot in Chicago, 7 dead. The police chief in Seattle pleading to get guns off the streets.
New and disturbing video tonight of an unprovoked attack on an Asian woman in Queens. And you can see the 75-year-old woman getting punched in the face as
that older Asian American man walking in his neighborhood, attacked in broad daylight.
New tonight, another attack on an Asian American in New York City. Disturbing video shows a man walk up to a woman, then hit her hard in the face, knocking her to the ground.
It starts as a tense conversation with an Amazon delivery driver turned into an assault on a 67-year-old Castro Valley woman.
A woman who was being stabbed on a subway platform in Manhattan. This exclusive video of the attack.
There's been yet another violent attack by a parolee. This time, 2 bystanders cornered a suspect who assaulted an elderly Asian woman.
Well, apparently these kids were really up to no good at all, and the off-duty firefighter was walking here and noticed them harassing an elderly couple that were walking here on the sidewalk, running in front of them and screaming things. When he told them to knock it off, that's when at least one of these kids sucker punched him in the back of the head, causing him to fall to the ground. Police tell us the 38-year-old victim was smacked in the head, and once he fell, he repeatedly had his head stomped on by the suspects. He suffered.
What you just saw were news stories from recent weeks and months, representing a sharp increase in violence across U.S. cities. Violence that seems to be growing weekly, including unprecedented attacks on elderly people. Wouldn't you like to know what might be coming next? Well, what you're about to see is a compilation of dreams and visions that Christians have been having recently. At this point, I have evaluated hundreds and hundreds of these dreams, and I've only begun to touch the tip of the iceberg. There are thousands of these dreams out there that God may be using to warn us, to give us advance warning of what is coming. There's a prophecy that in the last days, He will pour out His Spirit, and people will have dreams and visions. This is seen in Joel 2:28 as well as in Acts. Please know that to be included in this video, I couldn't have had any doubt as to the reputation of the source of the video. I was looking at dreams reported by average everyday Christians for the most part, or small church pastors. I intentionally excluded or ignored anything reported by a televangelist or self-declared prophet. So, if you believe we're in the last days, then we should be expecting people to have dreams from God. This should not come as a surprise to us. Now, some people are confused by the term last days, and they think it means the last 7 years or the last events right before Jesus comes back. And that is not technically what it means. It means the last generation before Jesus returns. So, based on the signs, now there are agreed upon signs in the Bible to know when we're in the last days. And in my book, Revelation Unfolding, that's exactly the analysis that I do. I take each of these signs that all agree are indicators of the last days and ask the question, are these true now? And were they true 100 years ago? And almost all of them are true now and were not true before. Therefore, I do believe that we're in the last days, and thus we should be expecting dreams. And when we see so many dreams by people that don't know each other, that are all in agreement, I think we should sit up and take notice. This is the first of 4 videos I'm going to upload on what I call the impact of the Red Horseman on America. It's curious to me that so many Americans are having dreams about a coming war, when that is also what Scripture seems to be telling us we should expect in this part of the world. So let's go ahead and get started.
You know, I had this dream, and the Lord told me it was a dream where God used a certain man of God that I knew. And He said, with this stern and firm voice, He said, prepare for civil war.
Hey everybody, James Ward here, of course, and I wanted to take a moment to share something with you that I believe is vitally important, certainly not only to me, but to many of you, but also in the interest of our nation, friends. And so I want to take a few moments to share something with you, friends. Yesterday morning, as a matter of fact, and from time to time, sometimes God will give me a vision and show me certain things that are relevant to our ministry or to our nation, to His purposes. And that happened yesterday, not often. And I say that, friends, really with humility, with fear and trembling. It saddens me sometimes when those things are taken out of context or mocked or misused or abused, which is really a privilege for God to make impressions upon our heart. And so I share this with fear and trembling from a place of humility in a way that I believe that will be beneficial to you. I had this vision yesterday morning, as a matter of fact, and it was a room of just many Christians, lots of Christians all over. And we were in a single file line coming up to the front of the room, friends. And get this, Jesus was at the front of the room. And in our hands, we had these, they were 2020 election ballots. Get this, it was very clearly, I saw it very clearly in this vision that these documents that every Christian had in our hand, it was a 2020 election ballot. But friends, get this, the moment we placed that ballot in the hand of Jesus, when who was collecting those ballots, get this, the ink changed on the ballot, and it went from saying 2020 election ballot, and it changed once we placed that document in the hand of Jesus, and it said final exam.
One of the dreams you're about to see is from a pastor named Dana Coverstone, just very quick clips, where he saw a fist punch our calendar last November. Some Christians have dismissed this because they said, well, that didn't come true. The country didn't just fall apart last November. I don't think that's what it's teaching at all. I've evaluated a lot of his dreams and a lot of other dreams. I think what God was teaching to that is that there was a new division that began in the United States last November, and unfortunately, we will not heal from it. Now, the rest of the dreams, they're going to go fairly quick. Most of them are I've tried to only include information I think that you need to see, that add detail, that help you get a picture. But there's kind of two halves to it. So the second half of these dreams that you'll see talk a lot about the actual beginning of a probable civil war, chaos, riots, etc. And I'm going to say there's a lot of dreams for that. There's a lot of dreams. Okay, so there's a high confidence of probability that probably is going to happen because all the details agree. Now, the first half though tells a story. Our dreams that I've put in I think the right order to kind of tell a story of how we may get there. But I want to say that there's not nearly the same level of confidence for all of these details. And I'm not trying to be political. I'm just presenting to you dreams that are out there, okay? And the scenario presented in this storyline that you're about to see would get us to the chaos. But I want to be clear that while the chaos dreams are huge in the body and how many are out there, the other ones, there's only maybe this many, okay? So I don't have the same level of confidence in the first half of these dreams as I do the second, but I will say that so far I've seen things come true from all these dreams that were not true when the dreams were posted. And that's something to recognize, that I want you to understand. Every single dream you're going to see was posted before anything mentioned happened. So keep that in mind, because some of the things you'll see say, oh, well, that already happened. They would have known. No, it was posted. I assure you, it was posted before that thing happened.
And then I saw October come up, and then I saw November, and this is when it got real to me in the dream. I think the intensity, according to my Fitbit, when I woke up, my heart rate was about 180. So that was Monday night. It was also a night that I woke up not feeling very well at all. I was up during the night, not feeling well. But anyway, the minute the finger underlined November 3 times, instead of tapping it, I saw a fist ball up and it hit the calendar. And literally, the calendar exploded into the wall. The numbers seemed like they were 3D and they were just flying everywhere.
Good morning. I had a dream, and I'm still waking up from it, that Joe Biden declared himself president. And he was so feeble that he couldn't finish his speech, and we took over for him. And he said, or somebody said, there will be a long civil war. And it was the start of communism in this country. The Civil War was the start of communism.
The dream that I had was crystal clear, and it was short and sweet, and it was to the point. And what I saw was the White House. I saw a large, heavy piece of furniture be lifted up and moved. Not by anybody, it was just lifted up and moved. And that's all I saw. And then I heard, when Trump is in office, there are going to be things that he can move that have never been moved before. And this was 2020 election. After this dream, I started praying in line with what the Lord wanted. Something still always felt off in my spirit, and now looking back, I'm guessing it's because Trump didn't get in at this point in time. But something always just felt off, and then Biden got in. And here's what happened for me next. I went to bed that night after the election, kind of confused, because I was so confident with what the Lord showed me. I still know that that's what the Lord gave me. And I went to bed, and as I was drifting off, I said, maybe Biden really was meant to be president. And the moment I finished saying that, I heard boom right beside my head. I was there alone in my room. There was nothing there. It was not in the natural. Nothing fell. There was nothing. The boom was so loud. And if you've ever experienced hearing something in the spirit like this, I've only had it maybe happen like a couple of times in my life, and I can't even remember what the other times were. There's something different about it. It's like, it's not the natural, but you hear it, but it's in your spirit, but it's so loud. Anyway, it was so loud, it woke me up. It was so loud. I was in and out of sleep, about to drift off. Boom, right beside my head. And in the spirit, what I saw and felt clear as day is a gavel come down. Boom, like this. And I felt, I'm getting goosebumps. I'm getting goosebumps talking about this again. I felt judgment from the Lord. And it was not judgment towards the nation. Oh, I felt it and saw it clear as day and heard it. Man, that was loud. It woke me up. Boom. And I felt that gavel come down, and it was judgment towards Biden and his presidency. I don't know what God's doing. I don't know what he has planned. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what he has planned. Just leave it at that. But he's doing something.
In this dream, I saw President Trump in a race. He was moving really fast. And I could hear the sound like a race car. But what was strange about it is that he was not in a race car. But I knew the Holy Ghost said he was in a race. And I watched him move really fast, and it was so fast that he could not stop. And he went past the finish line to an area of ground that appeared to be away from the race. So I repeated my question, said, Mr. Trump. And I said, Mr. President, President Trump, are you going to voluntarily resign? He just kept walking, and as he got out of the car, he started walking. He went behind this big old platform. It looked like a big old divider wall. It looked like it could have been transparent, but it wasn't transparent because you couldn't see through it.
This morning I saw this same whirlwind and it landed at the capital, Phoenix City, Arizona. And inside the Capitol building, inside the Capitol in Phoenix, there was a group of people that was huddled up like in a circle, like they didn't want everybody to hear what they were saying. It was a private, kept secret conversation. And they looked at one another, and all of them begins to talk amongst each other by saying that Samson ain't coming. We have put his eyes out. And then I looked out in front of the building, and some black SUVs showed up. There was a silver-headed man got out of that SUV. He got out, and there was a little boy, a little lad, had him by the hand, led him out of the car. And then the little boy let go of the silver-headed man. And again, the people inside the building said, I thought that you put his eyes out. How is it that he sees this? And they got out and they started arresting the people in Arizona. After this, America, Children of God Church people, this whirlwind picked up the man with the silver hair, and it bounced from Arizona and it hit Atlanta, Georgia. And at first it bounced down right smack in the middle of Atlanta, and it's like it skipped over to like North Georgia, and I seen a particular subdivision. It was Williamson Heights subdivision. In that area right there around Lawrenceville, Monroe, Georgia, is where it hit again, and it had something to do with the fraud that took place in Atlanta.
Okay, so real quick, the African-American gentleman that you saw 2 videos ago, he posted that before the election, its results were known, and yet he accurately said that Trump was going past the finish line and then away from the race and out of sight for a time. And he's going to speak more about what may come after that a little later. The Mr. Timothy Dixon, who is the trucker that was talking about Arizona than Georgia, just for your reference, I believe, my personal belief is that probably the silver-haired gentleman that he saw may be General Michael Flynn. I have a number of reasons for that, but that's just a guess. But he posted that back in, I believe, end of December, early January, long before the Arizona audits or the Georgia audits started. Okay, so let's see some more.
I saw a Conestoga wagon. Think Little House on the Prairie. And Kamala Harris was driving that wagon. It was led by 2 mules. And Joe Biden was not sitting with Kamala Harris. Joe Biden was riding on one of the mules on the left, on the far left, so to speak. And her side, there was a mechanical box that would trigger dynamite, like you would see in the Wile E. Coyote movies, you know, or cartoons where they push down and it blows up. And then the wind started blowing the wagon covering back, and it revealed several cases of like what I would consider to be Civil War type cases of dynamite. That era, the late 1800s, 1860s, 1870s. And most of it was in cases, stamped dynamite. There were some loose ones in an open wicker basket, which didn't fit the timeline, but it was there. And Harris began to whip the mules, and with the whip, and she was hitting Joe Biden as well. But Biden had no idea he was being whipped. He was not aware of what was happening. And the mules started moving and picking up speed. They were headed towards a target. And this is where I saw Hillary Clinton was standing behind President Trump. President Trump was on his knees, and she had this gaudy ring on her index finger. It looked like it had blood on it. She had the skeleton key hanging from her neck, and it was dangling. And she had Donald Trump with he was on his knees, and she had a Roman gladius knife to the left side. It was the left side of his throat, holding his head back like that. And the skeleton key was dangling in front of his face. And the skeleton key looked like it had blood and black mold all over it. And where it had leaned down, where it was banging against the front of her shirt, it looked like it left like a Nazi symbol. The stormtroopers, the Nazi SS had almost like the lightning signal, the lightning strike, the double pane of lightning. That's what it looked like on the front of her shirt. I'm not saying she's a Nazi. I'm just saying that symbol was on her shirt, and it was like just tainted, stained, black, red, ugly, gaudy. And the wagon starts picking up speed, and they're headed towards this. Hillary Clinton's holding Donald Trump, and Hillary's face was giddy. But next to her leg, there was like an animal trap, a large, like a bear trap. And suddenly Trump grabs the key and he pulls it down like this. Well, he grabbed it with his left hand. When she came down, he brought his right hand up and hit her in the face, in the chin. When she did that, she dropped the knife and she stepped back. And the president began to run off quickly. Well, then she steps into the trap. And she's trying to get out, and she's trying to pick up the knife, and she can't lean over. She can't get the trap. She can't get the knife. And as the president runs, he's running towards the beast, which is the car he is usually in. I hear 3 gunshots, and they're handgun shots. This is not a shotgun or a rifle. This is a handgun shot. I hear 3 shots fired. And out of nowhere, I see 3 different, and it happens like there's one shot, then another, then another. But as Trump is running to the beast, a Secret Service agent jumps in front and gets one of the bullets and then rolls to the ground. Trump keeps running. The second shot's fired. Another Secret Service agent jumps in front of Trump and takes the shot and hits the ground. And then the third Secret Service agent jumps in front of the third bullet that comes at him. Those are the things I'm seeing now. Hillary tried to pull her leg away. She couldn't. And finally, the wagon struck her. There was just a huge explosion. And in the explosion, it threw the carcasses of the mules up on top of the building rubble. And the smoke was coming off them like they'd been grilled or something. Biden was laying face down in the middle of the street, and he had wheel tracks over the back of him. And there was a vulture sitting on his head. And I'm not trying to make fun. I'm not trying to disrespect anyone in political leadership at this moment. Those that know me know how I feel about certain people in leadership, but I still pray for these people.
I looked to the right, and there was like an alley over to my right, and I looked, and there was 2 donkeys with 2 people sitting on the donkeys. One was a woman and one was a man. And the man with the staff, he jabbed his staff down on the ground, on the bottom step, just jabbed it on the ground. And when he did that, over to my right, the 2 donkeys died right there in the streets. And the man that was sitting on the donkey, he grabbed his chest and he passed away, fell dead with a heart attack. The woman run inside the Capitol building. She had daggers, like some kind of throw knives that was hidden. You couldn't see them.
A couple of dreams that mentioned 2 donkeys, as well as Biden and Kamala Harris, and some things that may happen. Those dreams were posted a long time ago, long before the election, and just want to point out that in both of them, Kamala Harris is portrayed as throwing darts or bombs or things like this, and kind of secretly attacking Biden. It portrays a kind of infighting in the Democrat Party, and that is happening now, according to a lot of sources. A lot of the negative news stories that are coming out Even in major newspapers like the Washington Post, New York Times have pointed out that they think the source of these negative news stories is Kamala Harris, who is frustrated that the presidency isn't being turned over to her yet. And her frustration, the reason that's not happening, I believe, according to former Director of National Intelligence Grinnell, he says that Susan Rice is actually the one running the White House, and of course she works for Obama. So Biden is not relinquishing the presidency to Kamala Harris because Obama is enjoying his third term, and this is the infighting, Obama's side versus Harris's side. So interesting that those dreams were seen so far ahead of what we're experiencing now. Anyways, let's keep going.
So I found myself standing in the bottom of the House of Representatives. The whole place was empty, and I was looking up, and I could see that nobody was there, but definitely the House of Representatives. And as I was looking up, this huge wave came over the back of the House of Representatives and started to come down on the seats and actually started rushing toward me. And it was this, and the wave looked just a lot like this, the way it came over. And the wave almost looked like it was targeting. It was judgment. And I noticed that there's seats popping up from this huge wave that's now coming in from the back. And there's seats popping up, and they're going being ejected, almost like a pilot seat. They're being ejected straight up into the air. And they're just being ejected all over the place, and like this, and it wasn't like one side more than the other or anything like that. It was both sides. I recall that. But there's also seats that were stationary, that did not change. They did not move. They were secure to the ground.
I seen like a clip of Air Force One picking up President Trump.
In this dream, President Trump was just standing in a stage, a big stage. I don't know, it was outside, a big platform, a big stage, and he was standing there on a puppet, something like that, yes. And as he was standing there, there were so many people around him, so many people, multitude of people, so many people, all kinds of race and people. They were just standing before him, and he was just speaking. He was speaking to them, and I heard what he speak to the people. He said, he was standing in front of the people of America, and he was saying, "Come to Jesus." He was telling the people, "Come to Jesus."
And in this dream, there was peace. Everyone was going about their normal business as usual with this new normal. Then all of a sudden, pandemonium and all hell broke loose.
I saw headlines that read, "Trump victory challenged everywhere." And it was on digital marquees like in New York, Times Square, places like that. There were protesters in the streets. They were weary and asleep, and they appeared dirty and dingy, like they had not slept or showered in weeks. And this bell rang, and suddenly these people come to life. They woke up and they started salivating like a dog, like Pavlov's dog situation, big buckets of saliva, and it seemed to stain their shirts. And I saw people screaming and getting violent over the election results, to the point that people were firing weapons just randomly into the air, into the sky. People were angry and people were mad. I saw a person with a sign and it said, "The obvious winner is not so obvious," like a placard, like, the world's about to end, God is coming, get ready to, whatever, one of those signs.
Okay, guys, I had a dream this morning that I feel I need to share with you guys. Okay, it starts out with the terrorist attack. I'm walking up to the Toyota Center where the Rockets play, the Houston Rockets, and there is caution tape sectioning off the streets. And I look and I see bodies laying all the way, like a trail of them going all the way back to the Toyota Center. some were burnt, and some were shot. Then I remember after that I heard the policeman talking about what happened, and he said that the gunman was shot, and so that's kind of what I went with. Okay, that they shot and killed the gunman. So then I see the President Trump, walking in the street, and there's a big parade, and he is all of a sudden shot in the side. And I was thinking, wow, they just shot the president. And so I ended up I went back and had a conversation with some people that I know, and we were talking about it, and our stories were conflicting concerning the terrorist attack. They believed something totally different from what I believed, and what I believe this to mean is that the government was pretty much lying about what actually happened. While I was talking to these people, I wanted to let them know the truth. And this was the truth in my heart, that Obama was controlling Antifa. And Antifa was the one committing these terrorist acts. And they were framing the Christians, making it look like the shooter was a Christian person who had went crazy or, just wanted to kill a bunch of people.
Hey, we're definitely getting into dreams about things that have not happened yet, if they're going to. And but I just want to comment that there are a number of dreams out there that have seen some false flag events planned to be blamed on Christians specifically to cause strife. So this one's not unique in that. But this is the only one that's so specific about what one of them might be. Well, time will tell.
And after I waited a while, I kept looking, and then finally he came out behind this wall, right? And when he came behind this wall, all of a sudden, people start coming towards him. These were civilians that was coming towards him, and they was carrying rifles in their hand. And at the end of their rifle, they had a knife at the end of their rifle. The rifles looked like old Civil War rifles. It's like what they used during the time of the Civil War. But they weren't dressed in army uniform, but they were all dressed together, kind of uniform, but they was in civilian uniform. And they start walking towards me. And I start to turn around and I start to run back, and I said, no, I'm not going to go anywhere. I said, if I turn my back, they going to probably shoot me in the back. So I just stood there. And when they came to me, they didn't ask me no question. They didn't ask if I was an innocent standby or anything. They just started in on me and tried to stab me with their gun. And so I grabbed their gun and I start knocking them down, and I start hitting them one after another. It looked like about 4 of them I had knocked to the ground. And then as I was trying to take the gun from one, then one came up and stabbed me in the back.
And he said, with this stern and firm voice, he said, prepare for civil war. And I told myself, and in that dream, immediately those words fell from his mouth, and the words hit like stones. I felt my heart just bit with so much fear, and immediately there was something that kind of broke out. It broke out in our midst. It broke out in the body of Christ. It broke out in the church, and people were trying to take cover. I was so shocked. I could not even move. I did not even have strength to look for cover.
So anyway, it started with us fighting. It was a civil war going on.
I looked out through different various cities, and these people started burning again and rioting and all kind of just chaos, just major chaos was going on in different cities, a lot like what we've already saw. I saw the National Guard having to go out and help police different things again.
Rest. And so I fell back to sleep and I started to dream. And I started to know that in my dream there was conflict. On my left side and on my right side there was some conflict. It was left and right, and then the conflict got so bad that I couldn't breathe. It took my breath away, and it actually woke me up. I woke up.
Anyway, in the dream, on my left, there were all these people charging on my left, and I started running to my right, and there were these people on the other side up on this hill, like already there, ready, and they gave me a gun. Now all the weaponry looked like it was Civil War weaponry, and people were wearing like Civil War uniforms. So I think that's a clear indicator, it's a Civil War dream.
Bless you, saints. On December 10th, 2019, the Lord gave me a short prophetic dream. And there was a lot of things going on in this dream. And again, I only remember a few things, but I wanted to share what I do remember. And it had to do with, there was great urgency in the dream. I was doing something, and I just remember myself being under just great urgency and being diligent to do things for the Lord. And there was a lot of riots happening. There was a lot of blood on the streets. There was a lot of envy and hatred, persecution against the Christians, the hatred towards the Christians, and dark times were upon the people of America.
And I immediately, got my breath. That's the first time that ever happened for me, to kind of lose my breath while I'm sleeping. And then I immediately fell back to sleep. So now when I fell back to sleep, I went straight back to the dream of this conflict happening. And now it's been revealed to me, it's a battle that's going on. It's going on my left and on my right. And I knew that. And I'm still laying on my side, just like this. And then, so I get to the point where I can't breathe again. So the second time I wake up.
And there was a cloud of chaos that started. And then the next thing I saw was I saw armed protesters. I saw fighting in the streets. I saw people pummeling one another. I saw businesses shuttered and shut up. I saw schools closed.
And in my dream, after all the stores were done closing down, everybody was going to war. I mean, everybody. You guys have no idea the kind of civil war that's coming to you.
Full dream. I was in my car, and I was trying to drive down a street. I was in some neighborhood. I have no idea what neighborhood it was. I was in a neighborhood. Now, this was in America, okay? But my car's not moving because in the street, all down the street, everywhere as far as you could look, all you could see was people fighting with each other. I don't mean verbally fighting. I'm talking about fighting, trying to kill each other. Anything they could. They were trying to literally kill each other. Everybody was fighting in the streets. Everybody was trying to kill each other. There was a police officer standing, not like right at the hood, the front of my car, but he was like just a few feet away from my car. I guess he was like in front of my car, but he was like a few feet away from my car. And he was just standing there, and he had his hands behind his back. They weren't tied behind his back or anything. He was just standing there, just kind of like holding his hands behind his back, and he was just looking off like this. And I'm in my car, and I'm trying to get down this road. I'm trying to get down the street, and there's no way to do it. Everyone is being violent. Everyone is trying to kill each other, okay? Completely kill each other, annihilate each other. And I don't know why. All I know is it's happening. And I knew in my spirit I had to get down the road, and there was only going to be one way that I was going to be able to get down that road.
And the Lord gave me a vision
of like young teenagers or young men throwing rocks through windows, and I heard the words civil unrest. And then I fell asleep, and then upon waking, I heard a general with a southern accent saying, "The problem, Mr. President, is the countryside is closed."
And what was happening down below me was pure chaos. I remember it was at night, and I could hear copters flying overhead, and down below were like running battles in the streets. There were soldiers. I remember seeing them in camouflage in their helmets, and they were shooting like these giant tear gas canisters at the people running throughout the streets. And I remember there were like this red glow, and I originally thought it was like a siren, like a police siren, but it was just like this red sinister glow that kind of like draped over everything.
There's going to be a lot of persecution. There's going to be a lot of riots. You know, I have seen riots in my dreams, bigger riots than the ones that we have seen.
I saw absolute chaos. And the other thing I saw was vultures flying over large cities. Not just the ones that were burning, but I saw vultures flying over the cities. And I saw smoke rising, and I saw people fearful. I saw people terrified. I saw people inside their homes and looking out the windows, the curtains of their windows, with guns in their hands, because there was absolute fear. But the vultures that I had seen were now like gargoyles, and they were 10 feet off the ground, 10 to 15 feet off the ground. And they were just attacking people mercilessly. I saw people hiding in their homes and garages. I saw churches being burned. I saw homes being burned. I saw absolute chaos. And the fist punch on the November of 2020 is what got my attention. And then I heard the words again, brace yourself, brace yourself, brace yourself.
Hey everyone, it's Byron again, here to testify for Jesus Christ. I had another Civil War dream. This is maybe my fifth Civil War.
And I heard the foot stomp in the street. I mean, it must have been multitudes of people that were marching there. I'm hearing automatic gunfire. I see barricades in the streets. I see sandbags in the streets used as barricades. I see barbed wire and other barricades in the street.
There was rioting, there was looting, people were being kidnapped, people were being raped, there were race wars, there were protests, houses, apartments were being vandalized.
And I saw monuments. I saw Washington, D.C. burning. I saw Washington, D.C. blazing. I saw fires everywhere.
And the Lord is warning his children to draw near to him, to seek him. And so I want to share this. Thank you, Heavenly Father. So in this dream, I was like elevated and seeing from an aerial view, and I could see a lot of streets in the nations and cities in America. And as I'm seeing the streets and I'm seeing neighborhoods, I'm seeing riots, I'm seeing fires everywhere, a lot of fires everywhere. I see looting, destruction, violence, a lot of violence, great destruction. People were running for their lives, people running, trying to escape the violence. And again, the streets were just full of violence, folks. These things are coming. Civil war is
Everybody
coming.
was silent, and then everybody just started crying, and they were just like, oh my gosh, why have we allowed this to happen to ourselves? You know, why are we fighting each other, our own flesh and blood, our own brothers? And I was, you know, thinking these thoughts too. I was like, why have we allowed this to happen to ourselves? Why are we allowing this kind of thing, you know, to even take place? And, you know, I was asking God all these questions, and, you know, I saw as I was being lifted up that it wasn't about black people versus white people. It was about, you know, the Democrats versus the Republicans.
And I catch my breath, and, you know, I'm like, what's going on here, you know? And so I lay back down, still on my side, and I immediately fall back to sleep and start dreaming again. The Lord, I knew it was the Holy Spirit, says to me, this is a battle between the states. And then I saw a map of the United States. I saw these different state lines, you know, the way our states are marked out. And I saw these state lines, and I saw that there was clashes on the state lines. And it was like, you know, like little explosions and almost, you know, like gunfire and things like that. I saw these skirmishes happening on the state lines. And I'll show you where I was looking at the map, like around in this area, is where I saw the state lines and the skirmishes of those state lines.
And I could see explosions from different cities and different things, and I knew that these were cities that were fighting against each other, you know, against opposing forces. And I knew it was a civil war, and the Lord told me civil war. So this, I knew was a civil war as well. And I saw two sides fighting with swords and hatchets and knives, and so it was hand-to-hand combat. So it was, and that's probably one of the most vicious ways to fight.
We were standing above a map of America made out of dry, arid dirt. And he bent down and he put his finger up and down the map of America in a cross. And then there was a great shaking, and pieces of the map broke off and realigned. As I peered into the dream, into the vision, I saw cities or states on fire, murder, darkness, mayhem. And I looked at other cities and states, and it was revival, it was glorious, it was beautiful.
And in the dream, I was laying in bed with my husband, and it was in our house that we're in now. It was exactly like it is now, every detail. I could distinctly hear violent protesting and rioting happening outside of our home. But the interesting thing is I felt complete peace. I didn't feel the need to get up and to try and defend ourselves. And I just looked over at my husband in the dream and said, I think this is it. I think the rapture is about to happen. I could feel it. I could sense it. And then I had the question of, are we ready? The last thing in that third dream that was really significant was that my father appeared in the dream. And he's a pastor in my waking life. And so he spoke in a dream saying, no, this isn't the rapture, but it's coming soon, and it has to do with the number 11.
It was like the Lord was showing me everything happening all at once. I remember people at funerals being shot and killed. I remember seeing the church. This was made known specifically. The church was coming under attack, and through all of this chaos and noise, I clearly heard, put the church on lockdown. Then I heard the words Great Britain, UK, something like that. Let's do America like Great Britain or UK. Let's implement martial law. Let's implement a curfew from 5 to something. And then these large gates went up all around America and the rest of the world.
I saw politicians in back rooms making deals with people, patting people on the back and laughing and smiling and smirking.
I normally get warning dreams from God, and they usually pertain to members of my own family, and they have unfortunately come to pass in the past. So a few weeks ago, I got a warning dream, and this one's a little bit different. So I was viewing this whole scene from above, and there was a city street, and there were rioters in the street. They were all black men, and they were fighting against no one. No police, no other groups of people. They were lighting things on fire. There were sparks flying. They were shooting up into the air. They were just acting crazy, but there was no one fighting against them. There was absolutely no one else in the street besides them, and they were looking up into the sky, like where I was viewing this whole thing from. And then all of a sudden, one black man raised his gun and he shot a round off into the sky. And as soon as he did that, he was immediately shot in the head with like sniper precision, like coming from above. Okay, so as soon as this happened, he fell dead on the ground. And then right after that, another black man would come up with a gun, fire off a round, exact same thing. He'd fire off a round into the sky, and he would immediately get shot with sniper precision in his head and fall down dead right on top of the other guy. Well, this kept happening. Just man after man after man came, took one shot in the sky, was immediately killed with like sniper precision and fell on top of the one that came before him. And so there was this gigantic pile of dead black men in the street. And this is very disturbing and just disgusting. And I've never had a dream like this before, where people are being killed. So after I saw this scene play out, I heard Joe Biden's voice. And this next part of what he said is very confusing to me. I don't understand it. I don't know why I heard his voice. But I heard Joe Biden say, no more than 35 inches. I don't know what that means. But while I was having this very short dream, I did kind of like have a knowing in the dream that these people who are rioting, they are being used. They are being used by the evil powers that be, the globalists or the, I don't know, just the people pulling the strings in the world, the evil people of the world who have been planning this whole thing. And I think we know what movement that they claim to be a part of. I'm not going to say it, but they've been planning this and they're using them, and their plan was all along for them to act this way, for them to carry out these riots, and that they would eventually extinguish them. And that is so horrible. It's awful.
Lincoln stood taller and closed his eyes slowly after looking both to his right and his left, and at each of the men who stood behind Uncle Sam. And these people consisted of federal elected and appointed officials, governors, and judges in their robes. Uncle Sam walked up to Lincoln and whispered in his ear and revealed tears running down his cheek. He choked back a sob, and he said, "Mr. Lincoln, You have been found guilty by those in power and are sentenced to death by hanging for it. Mr. Lincoln said, as the former president of this union, I deserve to know what I am accused of to begin with. I am an attorney, and I know what the law says. Uncle Sam stated clearly and precisely and with great struggle. We do not recognize the law of man or of God and simply find you worthy of death. Your time is over, and a new dawn awaits those who will dwell on this earth. And at this time, the men standing behind Uncle Sam came forward, and they put a noose around Lincoln's neck, and they tightened it. Then they pushed Uncle Sam forward while they threw the end of the rope over a marble brace at the memorial. And they handed the end of the rope to Uncle Sam and saluted him. Uncle Sam held that rope in his hands for a very long time, and he wept. And then he faced Lincoln and he said, I am sorry, Mr. President. He then started pulling on the rope. Lincoln's eyes, they showed compassion towards the elected and the appointed men in front of him. As Uncle Sam, holding the rope tight, would not look at anything but the floor. One of the judges, not the federal officials, one of the judges, spoke up and said, you can drop him now. And Uncle Sam very slowly and respectfully dropped Lincoln to the floor. He looked back at the men and he said, I hope you get what you deserve for this. Then he held his chest and he dropped to the floor.
So there's going to be a civil war. The civil war is going to last 3 years. I'm not going to tell you details of all my dreams. I'm just going to tell you, okay, that based on my dreams, 2021 is going to be peaceful. There's only going to be like protest, peaceful protest. Maybe a small riot here and there, nothing big. But then 2022, it's going to get ugly. 2022, it's going to become violent, Like in the middle of 2022, it's going to become violent. By the year 2023, America's lost. America becomes like an anarchy, Like nobody knows for sure who's the president anymore. And the Chinese are coming in. You watch, Chinese are coming in.
Anyways, the dream. I was sitting in a house, a big white house, about 2 stories, sitting on a hill, grassy hill. I suddenly started hearing news broadcasts about how Antifa groups, BLM, and all these different groups were storming across America. There was no TV. It was just a bunch of, it was just like I heard it. I heard all these different, it was almost like hearing a bunch of news channels simultaneously talking, different anchors and stuff talking about how there was not one place that was not affected by this. And all of a sudden I seen a map of the United States come over my vision, my field of vision. I was looking down at the United States, and I seen a really interesting graph that was overlaid across it, showing me all the states, all the cities, all the places where these groups were. And I found the state I was in, looking at it, and I realized, hey, there's a lot of people, and they were hitting the suburbs. They were they were just looting and destroying everything. And I was like, oh no, and I was so shocked to see how many people were in my tiny little area. And I live right outside Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville is a big city, has Derby and all that, but around here, it's not that much people. And I was really shocked to see that even people were here. And I was like, man, maybe I should put a BLM sign up or something inside my yard. And that thought crossed to my mind. And it was really crazy. And I heard, being in the military, there's a certain noise you hear when you see when you have huge brigade runs or brigade shows of force, and you have huge formations of troops marching and vehicles. There's a certain sound it makes. And I heard that sound, and I went over to the window after the map left, and I seen thousands. It looked like an entire brigade of troops, but of civilians. Some were armed. I seen big pickup trucks, small vehicles, hoopties, non-hoopties. Some were outfitted with machine guns. huge, like they had flags and banners. They were waving colors in the back. They had people were armed. It was wild, and I was just like, get out in Jesus' name. And for some reason, everyone stopped in their tracks and they stared at me, confused and with terror on their faces. Anyway, so they stopped moving. They looked at me, and in terror, they slowly dropped to the ground, never breaking eye contact with me on the way down. And they had just this absolute look of fear. And they laid face down, and they were shaking. They were like shaking, scared. And I don't know, I felt this sense of peace come over me because I knew they couldn't hurt me or my family. And I stood above them on the deck. And after I sat there for about a few seconds, and I told them that, actually I didn't say to them, I actually said, which is kind of strange, I know, bear with me, but I said, Lord, release them. Well, anyways, it was really interesting. I don't know if it means anything, because I've never had a dream like that where it almost made me feel like God was showing me that he had control over the situation, and no matter what happens, that he was going to prevent it from reaching and breaching my house.
Beneath that, I saw Trump standing, and he was talking to someone. I don't know who it was. And right next to Trump was written in black, JFK. I'm still looking at this magazine, and towards the bottom corner, or not the bottom corner, but towards the bottom, I could see the words written in black, the end of the world.
When I woke up this morning, I was so disturbed by this dream, and I was in shock, and it was like, wow, I can't believe I had all this all at once. And it was crazy because I kept going back to sleep and waking up, going back to sleep, waking up, going back to sleep, and going back to the same exact dream. So I know this was a prophetic dream, and it was a dream that the Lord wanted me to remember. That's why he kept making sure that I kept repeating it over and over and over. Just, yeah. So this is the dream I had last night. I dreamed that I was like, at home, and it just looked like the sun had already went down, but not completely down. And the TV was on, and it wasn't even on no news station or anything like that, but the TV was on. I guess a regular show was playing or whatever, and boom, breaking news. This is what they said. Former President Donald Trump is deceased. He was found in his Largo home, deceased. He is dead. That's what they said. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, like 1 minute you were just talking, everything was normal, everything was good. And when you got that news, like it was like a big old shot, like a big old weight just dropped, a big old bomb just dropped on you. It was crazy. It was shocking. And it was like, nah. I know I'm not hearing this right. I know I'm not hearing what I'm hearing right now. So I changed the channel. Boom. It was on every station. Every news was breaking news. Donald Trump is dead. He is dead. He's gone. He's going to the mortician. They were talking about it. He's going to the morgue right now. And they were, oh my God, it was horrible. It was like, 1 minute, everybody was in silence. Like you could tell, like everywhere, everybody was just in silence. And from that silence, we all just began, like rage just hit us all at once. Like, oh, they killed him. They murdered him. They assassinated him. And the crazy thing is, he was actually going to be running for president again. He was on the merge of getting his he was getting back running for president again. So basically it was around that time. And yeah, and in the dream I heard poison gas. Literally in my spirit it says poison gas.
The first thing I noticed was how massive it was. I guess I'd compare it to an IMAX theater screen as I'm watching this massive American flag be elevated up into the sky. Below it is a tarmac, and it's a massive tarmac, and it's full of like military armed vehicles, and they looked like they were preparing for a war. But this war was going to be waged on America, that it was within our own borders. As I'm seeing this flag being elevated up, it's almost as if it's signifying the boastfulness of a once most powerful nation.
Let me tell you something. The United States of America is the most powerful nation on earth. Period. Period. It's not even close. No nation attacks us directly or our allies because they know that's the path to ruin. No nation attacks.
But once it reached a high point, it quickly divided abruptly into 3 segments: red, blue, and white. The red shot over to one side and then the blue to another. And as fast as it happened, the white shot up and vanished in the clouds.
I saw Benjamin Franklin outside at night, flying a kite among very stormy skies, lightning in the background, strong winds, and a very, very light rain. But the kite was an American flag, and that American flag seemed to be covered in a type of oil, or at least it had like a greasy sheen on it. And at the end of the kite was a globe, small globe, attached to a chain, almost like a keychain you would have, okay? So hanging off of the flag, off the kite, it was just a globe attached to a chain at the end of the kite. Franklin was holding the kite very steady in the rain. He was watching the lightning around him with very wide open eyes. He was paying attention where the lightning was, obviously anticipating a strike on something. Suddenly his hand appears out of the heavens, and it grabs the flag and it squeezes. The hand squeezes around the flag in a very rough manner. It's just like this, grabbing and squeezing, almost violently. And the globe was hanging like underneath his hand. You couldn't see the flag in the hand of God who was squeezing the flag, but there was a chain running out and down, and the globe was hanging out. And so as the hand was squeezing, the globe was shaking. That globe was hanging in his hand, and flowing out of that squeezed hand was that mix of like oil and water. It was a sheen. It was just like a sheen you would see on an ocean if there's been an oil spill. The hand kept squeezing, rolling back and forth like this. Squeezing and rolling back and forth with the flag inside. There was sifting going on inside that hand. You could hear things like shifting and sorting and moving in the hand. And then the rain stopped, and the hand opened up to reveal several large, and I do mean large, diamonds. There were large chunks of what appeared to be coal. That's what it looked like to me, large chunks of coal. But there was also a lot of trash in that palm, almost like, and it almost was covering the diamonds. And then God reached down and just went with his hand, with his breath, and a lot of that trash just went flying away from his hand. And the only thing left in his hand was the diamond and the coals. And then he lowered his hand to the earth and he rolled out the items in his hand. And the diamonds were about the size of vehicles, and the coal pieces were about the size of large boulders. The coal was not as big as the diamonds. And they were each laying on this beautiful, green, luscious, healthy-looking grass. And the diamonds, they were shining.
About that dream. And then I partially woke up from that dream, and I saw red and white and blue and sparkles, like little bright lights all evenly placed apart from each other. And it's funny because when I was half asleep, it's like, it sounds kind of obvious what it would be, but I had no idea what it was. I was half asleep and I was like, what is that? And I asked Lord, and I said, what is that, Lord? And he said it's America. It was kind of obvious. But the revelation, the feeling that came along with it was this purity, was this light purity. Purity is the only word that I can give. Those
and the diamonds, they were shining in their brilliance. It was still night. It was still night. It wasn't daytime now. It was still night. The rain had stopped. It was still dark. And Franklin was standing there admiring the scene. And he solemnly said, just very clearly, I guess we are no longer a republic. And the Father spoke and said, no, it's mine now. No, it's mine now, as is the whole earth. And Franklin asked, he said, where did the globe go that was attached to the flag? And the Father spoke and he said, it's still being pressured for now, but will be released in good time. And then he said to Franklin, keep your glasses on, your eyes sharp, and stay committed to the captain.
All right, so some positive takeaways there at the end. Number one, we learned that one of the main reasons God is bringing about judgment to the United States is pride. Pride. I've talked about that in many videos. We are a prideful country and we do need to repent of it. So he's going to start forcing it, okay? And he's going to start taking away things that we've held dear in order to get our attention. Now, the good news is some of those last streams we saw the people were becoming beautiful. Some of the people were becoming beautiful. Diamonds. Now, diamonds are only made beautiful through pressure, heat and pressure. So unfortunately, that is a process that we have to go through as a people, as individuals, as a country, to become as beautiful as God wants us to be. So my recommendation, what you have just seen is the dream, a good representation of dreams pertaining to what I call phase 1 of the Red Horseman in the Americas. Next, I'm going to put phase 2 up. It'll hopefully be up in a few days. But what do you need to do with this? Well, pass it around, share this video. We need to get the word out. You know, Americans need to understand what's coming. They're worried about vaccine passports, and yes, that's an issue, and that is part of the division in this country. But really, what they need to be worried about is the Red Horseman, who has the power to make men kill one another. The only defense, because your mind can be influenced by the Red Horseman, is to be abiding in Christ, to be in fellowship, to be in the Bible, to be in prayer, to be close to God, full of His Spirit, so that anytime anger rises up within you, even over injustices that you see, it's fire's put out by the water, the power of God, so that you can be preserved and not swept up in anger.